The massive warship drifted through the dark space near the Zircon Empire's border. Its hull was scarred and battered, covered with strange alien growths that glowed faintly blue. The ship had been missing for 50 years. Nobody knew where it had gone. Nobody knew what had happened to its crew. Captain Sarah Chun stood on the bridge of the patrol vessel Horizon. She stared at the readings on her screen. Her hands trembled slightly. "That's definitely the Retribution," she said to her first officer, Jung-Hoon Park. "The warship that disappeared during the First Contact War." Jung-Hoon checked his own console. His eyes widened. "Captain, I'm reading life signs. Faint, but they're there. Someone is alive on that ship." Sarah made a quick decision. "Prepare a boarding team. We're going in." The boarding party consisted of Sarah, Jung-Hoon, engineer Min-Jun Kim, and medical officer Seo-Yeon Lee. They wore heavy combat suits as they crossed the empty space between the two ships. The airlock of the Retribution opened with a grinding noise that echoed through their helmets. Inside, the corridors were dark. Emergency lights flickered weakly. The walls were covered with the same strange blue growth they had seen outside. It pulsed like a heartbeat. Min-Jun scanned it with his equipment. "This substance is organic, Captain. It's integrated with the ship's systems somehow." They moved deeper into the ship. The air was thick and heavy. Their footsteps echoed in the silence. Suddenly, they heard a voice. It was weak and raspy. "Finally, someone has come." In the medical bay, they found him. Commander Zex Morgan lay on a bio bed, connected to the ship through dozens of cables that seemed to grow from his body. His skin was pale, almost translucent. His eyes glowed with the same blue light as the growths on the walls. "Commander Morgan?" Sarah approached carefully. "What happened here?" Zex smiled weakly. "We found something, Captain. Out there, in the void between galaxies. An ancient technology. It changed us. Changed the ship. Made us ... more." He coughed, and blue liquid dripped from his mouth. "The Zircon Empire is coming. Their entire fleet. They detected our return." Jung-Hoon's scanner beeped urgently. "Captain, he's right. I'm detecting hundreds of Zircon warships approaching. They'll be here in less than an hour." Sarah looked at Zex. "Can this ship still fight?" Zex's smile grew wider. "Oh, Captain Chun, this ship doesn't just fight anymore. It hunts, it thinks. It remembers every battle, every strategy. The Retribution has been waiting for this moment." He raised his hand, and the blue growths throughout the ship began to pulse faster. "I am the ship now, and the ship is me. We are one." The lights on the bridge suddenly blazed to life. Consoles activated on their own. Weapon systems came online with a deep humming sound that vibrated through the entire vessel. Sarah felt the ship's artificial gravity strengthen. The Retribution was waking up. "Get your crew to safety, Captain," Zex said. His voice now seemed to come from everywhere at once, through every speaker in the ship. "Tell them to watch from a safe distance. Tell them to remember what they see today. The Zircon Empire thinks humanity is weak. They think we're just another species to conquer." Sarah and her team rushed back to their ship. As the Horizon pulled away to a safe distance, they watched the Retribution transform. The blue growths spread across its hull like living armor. Weapon ports that hadn't existed before opened along its sides. The entire ship seemed to breathe, to pulse with life. On the horizon, the Zircon fleet appeared. Hundreds of sleek silver warships arranged in perfect formation. They were the pride of the Empire, each one capable of destroying entire colonies. Their supreme commander, Admiral Zarkonian, sent a message across all frequencies. "Unknown human vessel, surrender immediately or be destroyed." The Retribution's response was not words. It was laughter. Zex's laughter, echoing through space itself. The lost warship turned to face the Empire's strongest fleet, ready to show them what 50 years in the void had created. Admiral Zarkonian stood on the command deck of his flagship, the Imperial Throne. His forearms crossed behind his back as he studied the lone human warship on his tactical display. The Zircon were a proud species, standing 3 meters tall with scaled skin that shimmered like polished steel. They had conquered 100 worlds. No fleet had ever stood against them. One ship, his tactical officer, Commander Velther, said with disgust, "The humans send one damaged ship against the might of our armada. It's insulting." Zarkonian's mandibles clicked in agreement. Perhaps they wished to surrender. Open communications again. But before they could send another message, the Retribution moved. It didn't accelerate like a normal ship. It seemed to teleport, appearing suddenly in the middle of their formation. The blue growths on its hull flared with brilliant light. Then the impossible happened. Beams of energy erupted from the Retribution, but these were not normal weapons. The beams seemed alive, twisting and seeking targets on their own. They struck 12 Zircon destroyers simultaneously. The ships didn't explode. They simply ceased. One moment they were there, the next they were gone, leaving only empty space. "What kind of weapon is that?" Velther gasped. His scales had turned pale with fear. Zarkonian roared orders. "All ships open fire. Destroy that abomination." Hundreds of plasma cannons and missile launchers targeted the Retribution. Space lit up with the combined firepower of the Empire's greatest fleet. Any normal ship would have been vaporized instantly. But the Retribution was no longer normal. The blue growth on its hull expanded, forming a shield unlike anything the Zircon had seen. Their weapons struck the shield and were absorbed. The ship seemed to feed on the energy, growing brighter and stronger with each hit. Inside the Retribution, Zex Morgan no longer had a physical form. His consciousness flowed through every circuit, every system. He could feel each incoming attack, calculate trajectories in nanoseconds, and respond with perfect precision. The alien technology had transformed him into something beyond human, beyond organic. He was the ship's soul, and it was his body. "Fascinating," he said through the ship's communication system, his voice reaching every Zircon vessel. "Your weapons are quite powerful. Let me show you what I've learned in the void." The Retribution split apart, not broken, but deliberately separating into 5 distinct sections. Each section moved independently, surrounding the Zircon fleet. The blue growth connected them with streams of energy, creating a web of light that trapped the enemy ships. Minjun watched from the horizon, his instruments going crazy. "Captain, the energy readings are off the scale. That ship is generating power equivalent to a small star." Sarah gripped her command chair. "How is that possible?" "I don't know, but whatever Commander Morgan found out there, it's rewritten the laws of physics as we know them." The 5 sections of the Retribution began to spin, faster and faster. The web of energy between them grew denser. Zircon ships that tried to escape found their engines failing. Their systems shut down one by one. Admiral Zarkonian felt true fear for the first time in his life. His empire had records of ancient civilizations, species that had transcended physical form. They were myths, legends told to frighten children. But watching the Retribution operate, he realized the myths were real. And the humans had found their technology. "Admiral!" Velther shouted. 30 more ships just went dark. "We've lost contact with the entire 3rd Battalion." The Retribution sections stopped spinning and reformed into a single ship. But now it was larger, having somehow absorbed mass and energy from the void itself. Zex's voice echoed again. "You came here with 347 ships, Admiral. You now have 214. Would you like to continue this demonstration?" Zarkonian as pride battled with his survival instinct. The Empire had never retreated, never surrendered. But he was watching his fleet disappear like smoke. His most powerful weapons were useless. "All ships," he finally commanded, his voice heavy with defeat. "Retreat. Full speed." But as the Zircon fleet turned to flee, they discovered the terrible truth. The space around them had changed. The retribution had altered reality itself, creating a pocket dimension. There was no escape. They could only watch as the human warship prepared for its final demonstration. The blue growths on the Conduit retribution began to pulse in a rhythmic pattern. Each pulse sent out a wave of energy that made the Zircon crews feel drowsy. One by one, they began to collapse at their stations, falling into a deep sleep. Asterisk. 50 years ago, Commander Zex Morgan had been just another military officer. The retribution had been sent on a deep space reconnaissance mission when they detected an unusual signal from beyond the galactic edge. It was mathematical, beautiful, and impossibly complex. Against protocol, Zex had ordered the ship to investigate. What they found defied explanation. A structure floating in the void between galaxies, older than any known civilization. It wasn't built. It had grown like a coral reef in the ocean of space. The moment the retribution approached, the structure had reached out with tendrils of blue energy. The crew had tried to escape, but it was too late. The entity, for that's what it was, began to merge with their ship. But it wasn't hostile. It was lonely. It had been waiting for millions of years for someone to find it. Zex remembered the first contact. The entity spoke directly to his mind, not in words, but in pure understanding. It showed him the history of a race that had transcended physical existence, leaving behind their technology as a gift for whoever was worthy to find it. "You seek to protect," the entity had said. "You seek to explore. You are not conquerors. You are guardians. I will make you stronger." The transformation had been painful. The blue growth spread through the ship like a virus, but instead of destroying, it enhanced. Systems that were limited by physics suddenly weren't. The crew didn't die. They evolved. Some merged with the ship's systems. Others became living weapons. Zex, as commander, became the central consciousness. For 50 years, they had learned to use their new abilities. The void was not empty as humans had believed. It was full of wonders and horrors. The retribution had fought things that would drive normal minds insane. They had saved civilizations that humans didn't even know existed. And through it all, they had been preparing for this moment. Now, as Admiral Zarkonian's fleet slept, Zex accessed their computer systems. Not through hacking, but by reaching through dimensions humans hadn't discovered yet. He downloaded their entire database, their history, their conquests, their plans for humanity. What he found made him angry. The Zircon Empire had destroyed 17 peaceful civilizations. They had enslaved billions, and humanity was next on their list. They had been planning the invasion for decades, seeing humans as weak and divided. "Sarah," Zex spoke directly to Captain Chun's mind across space. "I'm sending you the Zircon battle plans. They were going to attack Earth in 3 months. Every human colony would have been destroyed." Sarah gasped as the information flowed into her ship's computers. Maps, weapons specifications, attack vectors. The scope of the planned genocide was staggering. "My God, Zex, what are you going to do with them?" "I'm going to send a message," Zex replied. "Not just to the Zircon, but to every empire in the galaxy that thinks humanity is weak." The retribution moved through the sleeping fleet like a ghost. It didn't destroy the ships. Instead, it marked them. The blue growth spread to each vessel, not enough to take control, but enough to leave a permanent reminder. When the Zircon woke up, they would find their ship still functional, but forever changed. The growth would be inert, but impossible to remove, a constant reminder of their defeat. But Zex saved something special for the flagship. Admiral Zarkonian woke up to find himself alone on his bridge. His crew was safe but unconscious. Standing before him was a projection of Zex, looking human, but with eyes that held the depth of the void. "Admiral," Zex said calmly, "I'm going to let you live. You're going to return to your empire and deliver a message." Zarkonian tried to speak, but found he couldn't. He could only listen. "Humanity is under protection," Zex continued. "Not just by me, but by forces you cannot comprehend. We've been to the void. We've seen what lies beyond. And we've been chosen as guardians. Your empire will withdraw from human space. You will release all slaves. You will pay reparations to the civilizations you've destroyed. And if we refuse?" Zarkonian managed to whisper. Zex smiled, and for a moment, the Admiral saw something vast and terrible behind those blue eyes. "Then I won't be alone when I return. There are 12 more human ships that found what we found. They're waiting, watching. We are not your prey, Admiral. We never were." The projection vanished. The Zircon crews began to wake up, and one by one, their ships were released from the pocket dimension. Asterisk. News of the Zircon fleet's defeat spread through the galaxy like wildfire. On the planet Kepler 442b, the Vorthic Alliance watched the footage in disbelief. Their leader, Prime Chancellor Krell-Tech, played the recording for the 100th time. 347 of the Empire's finest warships, defeated by a single human vessel. "It's impossible," his military advisor insisted. "The Zircon are lying. They must have encountered something else." But then the messages started coming in. Ships from other civilizations reported seeing the retribution. It would appear suddenly, scan them, and disappear. It never attacked peaceful vessels, but any ship with weapons aimed at human colonies found itself dead in space. Crews unconscious, weapons permanently disabled, on Earth. The United Nations held an emergency session. President Maria Rodriguez stood before the assembly. "We've lost contact with the retribution for 50 years. We declared them dead. Now they return as something we don't understand." General Park Jin-woo, Yong-hoon's father, had a different view. "They're still protecting us. Whatever happened to them, they're still human at their core. My son's reports confirm it. Commander Morgan saved us from an invasion we didn't even know was coming." Meanwhile, on the colony world of New Haven, young Lily Chun, Sarah's daughter, watched her mother's recorded message. Sarah described the entity Zex had become, part human, part ship, part something else entirely. But in his voice, she had heard the same man who had trained her at the academy years ago. The Zircon Empire was in chaos. Admiral Zarkonian delivered Zex's message to the Imperial Council. The blue growth on their ships couldn't be removed. Their greatest scientists couldn't even understand what it was made of. It didn't harm their ships, but it reminded everyone of their humiliation. Emperor Thaxinus raged in his throne room. "We are the Zircon. We do not bow to lesser species." But his advisors showed him the tactical analysis. If one transformed human ship could do this, what would 12 do? And worse, other species were getting bold. The Vorthic, the Crystalline Network, even the tiny Epsilon Federation were moving their fleets. They sensed weakness. The Emperor made a decision that shocked his court. Send the message to Earth. We ... Accept their terms. Back on the Retribution, Zex felt the shift in the galaxy's balance. Through the entity's enhanced senses, he could perceive thoughts and intentions across vast distances. Fear was replacing arrogance. Respect was replacing contempt. Humanity, the youngest spacefaring race, was suddenly being taken seriously. But Zex also sensed something else. In the deep void, something stirred. The entity that had transformed them sent a warning through their connection. They were not the only things in the darkness between galaxies. Ancient forces had noticed the Retribution's activities. Some were curious. Others were hostile. Sarah, Zex reached out again to the horizon. You need to return to Earth. Warn them. Our transformation was not unique. Other races have found similar entities. Some were not as benevolent as ours. Sarah understood immediately. You're saying there's going to be a war. Not between empires, but between. Whatever you've become? Evolution, Captain, Zex replied. The galaxy is evolving. Physical forms, traditional weapons, they're becoming obsolete. Humanity needs to prepare. Not with bigger ships or better guns, but with understanding. The void has many gifts. We need to be worthy of them. The Retribution began to move away from the former battlefield. But before leaving, Zex did something unexpected. He released a cloud of the blue growth into space, billions of microscopic spores that would drift on solar winds. They were harmless to organic life, but would attach to any ship with aggressive intentions toward humanity. A permanent early warning system. Commander Velther watched from his crippled destroyer as the human warship departed. He turned to his fellow officers. We thought we were the apex predators of the galaxy. We were wrong. The humans didn't become stronger. They became something else entirely. In the weeks that followed, more reports came in. A human mining ship that had vanished 20 years ago reappeared. Its crew transformed into beings of living crystal, able to survive in the vacuum of space. A research vessel emerged from a black hole, its scientists now existing partially in multiple dimensions simultaneously. Humanity wasn't just evolving. It was fragmenting into multiple evolutionary paths. And each path brought new protectors, new guardians for the species. The message was clear to every empire in the galaxy. Humanity was no longer helpless. They had friends in the void, and the void had teeth. 6 months after the battle, representatives from every major galactic power gathered at Babylon Station, the neutral ground between empires. The meeting had been called by humanity, but it was the Retribution that everyone came to see that Ambassador Chun Wei, Sarah's brother, stood at the center of the great assembly hall. Behind him, a holographic projection showed the Retribution floating in space, its blue growth now forming beautiful patterns across its hull like living art. Ladies, gentlemen, and beings of all forms, Wei began. We stand at a crossroads. The age of conventional warfare is ending. The void has revealed its secrets, and those secrets are changing us all. The crystalline network's representative, a being of living mineral, chimed in harmonic tones. We have detected 17 more transformation events across the galaxy. Not just human ships. The void entities are choosing species based on criteria we don't understand. Emperor Thaxinus himself had come, a shocking breach of protocol. His scales had lost their shine, marked by the weight of defeat. Commander Morgan, he addressed the Retribution directly. What do these entities want? Why are they changing us? Zex's voice filled the hall, coming from every speaker simultaneously. They're gardeners, Emperor. The universe is their garden, and we are the seeds. They've been waiting for us to grow advanced enough to be worth cultivating. But not every gardener has the same vision for their garden. A new hologram appeared, showing the galaxy from above. Points of light marked transformation events. But beyond the galactic edge, shadows moved. Dark spaces where stars should be. 3 months ago, Zex continued, I made contact with another transformed vessel. The Saurian Empire's battleship Darkness Falls, but their entity was different. It didn't seek cooperation. It demanded submission. The Saurian crew is gone, replaced by something that only looks like them. They're coming this way. The assembly erupted in panic. The Saurians were known for their aggression, but this was something worse. They had been transformed into weapons of conquest. "This is why I called you here," Wei said, restoring order. "Humanity proposes an alliance, not of empires, but of all transformed beings who still retain their original consciousness. Together, we can face whatever comes from the void." Admiral Zarkonian stood, his pride finally overcome by pragmatism. "The Zircon Empire agrees. Our fleet may be marked by defeat, but we are still warriors. We will stand with humanity against this threat." One by one, other representatives stood. The Vorphic, the Crystalline Network, even the isolationist Quantum Collective. The transformation events had scared them all into cooperation. Over the following weeks, the new alliance took shape. The Retribution became a training ground where crews learned to interface with void technology without losing themselves. Zex, through painful trial and error, had developed techniques to maintain human consciousness during transformation. Minjun Kim, now Earth's leading expert on void technology, worked with scientists from dozen species. "The key," he explained to his multi-species team, "is not to fight the transformation, but to guide it. The entities respond to will, to purpose. If you know who you are, truly know it, you remain yourself." On Earth, children looked up at the night sky with wonder instead of fear. Lily Chun drew pictures of the Retribution in her notebook, the ship surrounded by protective blue light. Her teacher, Mrs. Martinez, had told the class about humanity's new guardians. "We're not alone," Lily said to her friend. "And we're not weak. We're becoming something amazing." In the void between galaxies, Zex extended his consciousness further than ever before. He found them, others like him. The transformed mining ship, now calling itself the Crystal Dream, the research vessel Dimension Walker, and 7 more human ships he hadn't known about, all changed, all protecting humanity in their own way. But he also found darkness. The transformed Saurian fleet was massive, hundreds of ships turned into void weapons. Behind them, something worse, an entity so vast and old that it had consumed entire galaxies. It had noticed the Milky Way's transformation events. It was curious. It was hungry. "Sarah," Zex sent a final message to his old friend. "Tell Earth to be ready. Tell them that humanity's greatest test is coming. We've evolved, but evolution is not the end. It's the beginning. The real war for survival starts now." The Retribution turned to face the darkness, its blue growth blazing brighter than ever. Behind it, the combined fleets of the new alliance gathered. Enemies had become allies. Conquerors had become protectors. And humanity, once thought weak and helpless, stood at the center of the galaxy's defense. The age of empires was over. The age of evolution had begun. Asterisk.